Hi friends, I'm Joe Hopkins, and this is 5 Minutes to Make Sense of the Bible. Today we focus on the Gospel of Luke, chapter 19, verses 41 to 44. This is a shorter reading than usual, but these 3 verses are powerful. So let's dive in. This section of text, also called a pericope by Bible scholars, is wedged between 2 other quite famous stories near the end of Jesus' ministry and life. Jesus and his disciples are nearing the holy and royal city of Jerusalem. In fact, the verses 28 through 40 are what many Bibles label, quote, Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem, unquote. Though in Luke's gospel, Jesus doesn't actually enter the city during those verses. Yet Christians traditionally read this story from one of the Gospels on Palm Sunday, which is the Sunday before Easter Sunday. And following the pericope that we're focusing on this week, Luke's Gospel shares its version of Jesus cleansing the temple, which is inside the city of Jerusalem. Together, these verses set the stage for the great and terrible confrontation that Jesus will have with corrupt religious and political leaders that will lead to his death. But just before Jesus enters the city, Jesus begins to weep. The only other explicit mention of Jesus weeping is outside the tomb of his friend Lazarus, which is a story that is recounted in the Gospel of John. Now, we might surmise that Jesus wept at other times too, but the text doesn't actually say that. So what was it that saddened Jesus so much that Luke's Gospel specifically mentions Jesus weeping? He saw the city of Jerusalem, the center of Jewish life, and Jesus laments that the city doesn't recognize, quote, the things that make for peace, unquote. Jesus then prophesies that enemies will lay siege to Jerusalem, kill its inhabitants, and knock down its great buildings. This seems to be a clear allusion to the Roman siege of Jerusalem in CE 70, some 37 or so years later. And Jesus blames this future wartime catastrophe on the city's failure to recognize a divine visit. Sadly, Jerusalem has a very long history of military sieges, and very few end well for the city's inhabitants. Some of the wars that occurred during biblical times include the war with the Assyrians in the 8th century BCE, with the Babylonians in the 6th century BCE, with the Greeks in the 2nd century BCE, and the already mentioned battle with the Romans in the 1st century CE. And since the writing of the Christian Bible, Jerusalem traded hands between European Christians and Middle Eastern Muslims during the Crusades. And of course, Jerusalem continues to be a site of conflict between Israelis and Palestinians today. Did Jesus predict these later conflicts when he wept over Jerusalem? If we ask that question, we might as well ask some other questions for reflection too. First, how does this scene of Jesus weeping fit into your understanding of Holy Week, the week before Jesus died and then rose again? Would Palm Sunday celebrations seem different if someone added this reading to that day? Next, how comfortable are you in the presence of weeping? What about men weeping? How does the image of Jesus weeping affect your thoughts about weeping in public? Finally, the city of Jerusalem has long been, and continues to be, a site of terrible conflict and violence. What do you think contributes to the battles that have occurred there? How might peace come to Jerusalem? So there, 5 minutes to make sense of the Bible. I am preaching a sermon based on Luke chapter 19 at Streetsville United Church, so check out our YouTube channel for a recording of our worship services. And as you read the Bible for yourself, pay attention to what piques your curiosity. The Spirit often tries to catch our attention through our curiosity. And as always, while it's good to read the Bible by ourselves, we make the most sense of the Bible when we read the Bible together. Peace, friends.